Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat sejahtera. In this video, we are going to discuss about the functional group. So we know that in every organic compound, the main component is carbon and hydrogen, and it may have another element such as oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, or any halogen. So this atom normally become the functional group for the organic compound. So first, let's look at the definition of the functional group. So what is functional group? So the functional group is an atom or a group of atoms. So we have two. It can be an atom or a group of atoms in a molecule which determine its chemical or the physical properties. Okay, let's say we have an example. We have one molecule CH3 CH2 and it's bonded to one chlorine. So in this case, the functional group is chlorine that represent an atom. Okay, so only single atom give the chemical and the physical properties to a molecule. Another example, let's say we have CH3 CH2 and it's bonded to NH2. So in this case, the functional group is NH2, which is a group of atoms, because it have one nitrogen, two hydrogen. So the functional group for this molecule is a group of atoms. So the appearance of these two atoms or a group of atoms will give a chemical and the physical properties to the molecule or to the organic compound. So the functional group usually it gives the naming of the organic compound, and also it is a site for the chemical reaction. Okay, so tindak balas kimia tu akan berlaku dekat situ. Alright, and one molecule can have more than one functional group, and it is not necessarily one only. Okay, now let's look at this. So we have a functional group and a class of the compound. It is different. So for alkene, it does not have a functional group because it's only contain carbon and hydrogen. For alkene, okay, so the class of a compound is alkene, Ke. This is Ka, that is the difference. For Ke, it is carbon-carbon double bond. Okay, the functional group is carbon-carbon double bond, but the class of the compound is alkene. That is the difference. And alkyne, the functional group is carbon-carbon triple bond. So now let's look at this molecule. So we have ethene. So can you identify the functional group? So the functional group here is carbon-carbon double bond. If you want to identify, you can circle between carbon and carbon, and you can label as carbon-carbon double bond. And for this one, okay, so the functional group is C triple bond C. So we can circle it here, and you can label as carbon-carbon triple bond. So if you look at the next example, so this is one hexagon actually that have a continuous double bond. So we call it as an aromatic ring. That is the functional group, and the class of compound is arene. Okay, so this is the aromatic ring. Okay, so you have to differentiate between the functional group and the class of the compound. So the next one is haloalkene, meaning that we have an halogen and alkene group. So halogen, So this is the functional group. So we circle the functional group, and the functional group is halogen. Okay, so I hope you can differentiate between the functional group and the class of the compound. Alright, so we look at another example. So we have an alcohol as a class of compound, and the functional group is OH. So in this molecule, for example, for ethanol, this is the functional group, and we label it HYD ROXYL. So the functional group is hydroxyl, and the class of the compound is alcohol. Alright, so the next one is ether. What is the difference between alcohol and ether? So if alcohol, we have O and hydrogen, but for ether, O and R. R represent any carbon. Okay, carbon. So in this case, this is the functional group. Okay, the class of compound is ether, but the functional group we call it as alkoxy. Okay, so the difference between alcohol and ether is either O bonded to H or O bonded to R. R represent any carbon atom. Alright, and then we have a carbonyl. If you look at here, we have a carbonyl here and carbonyl also here. The difference between it is the functional group is C double bond O. It is similar for both. It will become an aldehyde if the atom next to the C double bond O is hydrogen. Okay, the class of compound is aldehyde. If the atom next to the carbon C double bond O is carbon, it is considered as a ketone. That is the class of the compound. So in this case, how to identify the functional group? You can circle C double bond O because both have the same functional group, which is carbonyl. But the atom next to the C double bond O used to determine either it is an aldehyde or ketone. I hope you clear about this. Carbonyl. Alright, so carbonyl for aldehyde and ketone share the same functional group, but the atom next to the C double bond O will use to classify either it is an aldehyde and ketone, and the reactivity between aldehyde and ketone also different. Okay, next we have an ester. So the functional group is also ester, and this is a situation where you have C double bond O and O, and we have a C next to it. Okay, so this is the situation. C double bond O, you have O. Okay, so the functional group is also ester. And this is anhydride, but it is not common for you. Okay, this is important. Amine. The functional group is amino. So this is the functional group. Okay, which is amino. Okay, and then we have a nitrile, which is C double bond N, C triple bond N, sorry, which is a cyano. So you can circle this and label as cyano. Okay, so maybe you can refer to your lecture note. So now let's try to identify the functional group in this molecule. So how many functional group we have? So if you look at here, we have a hexagon, but the hexagon does not have a continuous double bond. So in this case, it is not an aromatic ring, but we only have one functional group here. You can circle here, and we label as carbon-carbon double bond. We only have one. Even though it is a hexagon, but it does not have a continuous double bond, so it is not considered as arene. Not considered as aromatic ring. So the functional group, kalau class of compound for this, it is an alkene. Okay, now let's look at here. We have C triple bond and others we don't have any functional group, so we can circle here, and this is cyano. The functional group is cyano, and the class of compound is nitrile. Okay, now here, so this molecule have multiple functional group. So in this situation, we have to label all. So if you look at here, it is not a hexagon because it is not joined here. So we only have one. If you can see, we have a hexagon and a double bond is continuous. So we call it as aromatic ring. Okay, we have one. And then we have NH2. So we can circle here. It is amino. Okay, so actually this is a skeletal structure, and we have a carbon and carbon here, and this carbon and carbon is triple bond, so we can circle, and it is considered as carbon carbon triple bond. Alright, others, we have OH here, so we can circle this. It is considered as hydroxyl. Anything else? So actually we have a carbon here. So we have O, next to it is carbon. So if we have O next to it is hydrogen, it is hydroxyl. If O next to it is carbon, we can circle this, and it is alkoxy. Okay, anything else? Yeah, we have C double bond O, and this is carbonyl. So this is how we identify the functional group in a molecule. Okay, so because one molecule may have more than one functional group. So let's look at another example. Let's say this one. Okay, so if we look at here, we have NH2. It can be an amino, but if you have NH2, please check the beside the the next atom. If the next atom is C double bond O, it is not an amino. So we have to circle all, and it is considered as amide. Okay. And then we have C double bond O, which is a carbonyl. Okay, another example. We have a hexagon, but the double bond is not conjugated. So we can circle this. It is considered as carbon-carbon double bond. Okay. So we have C here, C double bond O. So if you have C double bond O, please check the atom, next atom. So if the next atom is O, and it is another one is C, so it is an ester. Okay, and we have C double bond O, so it's almost the same with this one, but this is O and this is O, and next to it is hydrogen. This is O, and next to it is carbon, so we consider it as ester. If we have O, next to it is hydrogen, so we can call it as carboxyl. Okay, so I hope this video will help you on how to identify the functional group. Alright.